Hey, this is Dave from MetalEpidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. It is album review time once again. And for this review, Duncan Kyle and myself have been checking out the new album from Danish metal band Defecto. The band's new album, Duality, will be released on October 23rd via Black Lodge. So, Defecto are a progressive metal band from Copenhagen, Denmark. They were formed in 2011 by Niklas Sona with the help of legendary producer Flemming Rasmussen. They've released one EP, and Duality will be their third full-length album. Okay, gents. Defecto. Okay, so I'm going to be pretty upfront here. On my first listen to this album, I really wasn't sure how I felt about it.
Oh.
Like I got to the end of the album and I was just like, what did I just listen to? It was so like all over the place. Like there were tracks on the album where I was totally in for the ride. The album opener, for example, I was totally hooked in. It's groovy, it's riffy, it's got catchy hooks. There's even a fucking choir in there, just to make that chorus a wee bit more epic. And then there were tracks that I just didn't have any connection with on first listen. So I took a break from it, and then I had a little look online, a little bit of a read on Defecto and about the band and the new album, and then I found out that these guys have supported bands like Rammstein and Metallica. All right, so now both of those bands couldn't be more different. Although Lars is a huge cock, so there is that similarity, but it kind of made Defecto sound start to make sense.
Yep.
That there are tracks on here where the band will go full throttle, big, heavy, progressive riffs. There's bits of thrash, there's bits of groove metal in there, and then there are these like big, radio-friendly, like rock ballads.
Yep.
And I think, like on the first listen, I think it was those moments on the album that had me kind of perplexed, like going from a track like The Uninvited, which has riffs that like weren't dissimilar to something on the new like Orbit Culture album.
Yep. Or
a track like Rise, which has like this kind of Volbeat kind of metal stomp to it. Mm-hmm. And then they go to like Paradigm of Deceit, which wouldn't be out of place on a Doctrine album or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just, I was just like, what is going on? And maybe like fans of the band are totally expecting this type of thing from Defecto. I have no idea. I'd never heard them before listening to this album. So the mix of styles threw me for a loop on first listen. I don't know if I'm in the minority there. What about you guys? How did you feel on first listen to this? Dunk?
Yeah, I think you're pretty right. Interesting when you said that they'd supported Rammstein. My initial thought was, "Du hast my attention, Dave." That's right, right there. Don't laugh at me. And yeah, like we spoke about this just before we hit record, and I think me and Kyle, interestingly enough, twinsied up on this moment here. What I got from them was waves and waves of more commercial sounding Avenged Sevenfold than anything else. Now, admittedly, you have since spoke to us and said, listen, I don't even think I even know what Avenged Sevenfold sounds like. That's fine. No. But it's within this realm. It's not like totally within this realm, because guitar-wise, the Avenged Sevenfold guitarists are better, and I mean no disrespect to that, in terms of the virtuosity they show in their guitars. A lot more solos, a lot more kind of a lot more of that in their music. However, like in the core of how they do their songwriting, this is in line with it, to be fair.
Okay.
And also, it doesn't help that their vocalist sounds like a cross between the cunt from Alter Bridge and dude from Avenged Sevenfold. If they were put in the Brundlefly machine and came out as a combined conjoined singer, that's kind of how they sound, because the kind of more mid-rangey sort of stuff sounds very much like Avenged Sevenfold, but then he'll start moving up at that higher kind of falsetto tone, which is very much in line with something like an Alter Bridge. Miles, whatever his name is. So it's kind of like a cross between those two. The songwriting is, for the most part, fairly conventional, I think, though. I think they do have the groove stuff, and they do have they use, like, at times weird industrial loops to begin songs, and there's a bit of orchestration in there, which sounds fine. But this is a fairly run-of-the-mill commercial sounding album. From what I listen to here, there's at least 3 or 4 songs that I would say would play really well on commercial rock radio or commercial metal radio easily. And interestingly enough, in a slightly different turn from where you're coming from, to an extent, the big thing that kind of threw me about Defecto is how unremarkable they sound overall. I mean, they sound... This, to me, is the epitome of a mainstream metal band. That's exactly what they sounded like. Very radio-friendly. That's not to take away from... That is a difficult thing to be able to write catchy, memorable songs. The choruses were all catchy, big, thrusting, loud, uplifting choruses, and a lot of groove, kind of driven verses. There are a couple of quieter moments in the album. They sounded fine as well, but even the production's really well done here. It's a modern, vibrant sounding production. Yeah. To me, there just isn't anything hugely remarkable or different about Defecto to a lot of other mainstream rock or / metal bands that I've heard before. They do it very well, but nothing that... There's no one element in here that I'm like, that's the hook that gets me in here. This is the sort of thing that could easily play in the background, and no disrespect here, the background of a barbecue, or if I was in a rock bar when those things were still open, and ordering a couple of pints and drinking with my friends. If this was playing in the background, I would be very happy. But at no point grabbed my attention. I was never thrust into really wanting to see what was written musically there, or really much more than it's a very superficial album. There isn't very much depth here in terms of the songwriting, in my opinion. I mean, it's a very easy to listen to album. I think I'm trying to choose my words, because most of the words, when I'm thinking about them in my head, come across as negative, and I did not dislike this album. I just didn't love it. So
okay. I wasn't sure about it at first, as I said, but on my third listen to the album,
go you.
It kind of fell into place. I don't know if I needed time to let it kind of marinate. I'm not sure, but I started to kind of understand where what they were trying to accomplish. Defecto for me are a band that kind of fall into the same category alongside bands like your Volbeat, Bad Wolves to an extent, Alter Bridge, even Fozzy at times as well. Bands that do have a heavier edge, but they balance out their sound with more kind of radio friendly moments. And I think once I got that around my head, I kind of got on board with it a lot quicker. Yes, some of it is a little saccharine at times, but for me, like, you can't deny they can write a fucking chorus. Like, as much as I thought tracks like Washed Away had a very poppy feel musically, the chorus is an absolute banger. Like, same with The Tempest, which comes near the end of the album, which is one of the kind of more kind of groovier tracks. It's got a bit more of a kind of metal feel to it with the syncopated riffs and bass drums, but the chorus, again, an absolute anthem. And I think a lot of those qualities come from the vocalist. I think he has a fantastic range, and it's something that gets mentioned a lot with Miles from Alter Bridge, but I think he pushes his vocals into place that are quite impressive to listen to. And I think he's got a great tone, both on the kind of clean side and the heavier parts where he goes more at that kind of, almost kind of like a more metal-y kind of growl. There are parts on here that are a touch on the schmaltzy side, for want of a better word. I still think it's a very enjoyable album, and I can't kind of refute the fact that the band don't have some really good writing chops. Most of it's well executed and extremely catchy. And I'm not ashamed to say I was singing along to a lot of those vocal melodies.
Dave's got a beautiful singing voice as well, so anyone in that room that heard that was treated. Doesn't let it out often, but oh my god, voice of an angel.
And I did feel that there was quite a kind of varied selection of styles on there. Like, and for a band that mixed so many different styles on each track, I thought they blended it very well. It never felt like the kind of transitions were clunky or poorly executed. For me, I think like favourite tracks, I really like Done Invited. I think it's a track that's equally heavy as it is catchy. I really dug the guitar tone and the groove on All For You as much as has a lot of kind of poppy elements with the synths and chord progressions. I think Washed Away has such a kind of big uplifting anthemic chorus. Tempest as well, actually, is a great all-rounder, kind of big progressive groove riff with that kind of hook-laden chorus. So what I'm trying to say is, like, I think for this one, it was one that definitely grew on me. First listen, wasn't sure. Second listen, still a bit unsure. Third listen, something happened and it just kind of clicked. And after that, I kind of got on board with it, and I kind of enjoy it more and more every time I listen to it now. It's not the most, groundbreaking thing I've ever heard in my life, but I enjoyed it. I thought it had a really good production on it. The choruses, as I said, very well written, very catchy. And yeah, a lot of it is radio friendly, but there are moments on there where they do go a bit heavier, a bit more of a kind of metal edge, more metal edge. But yeah, I did really enjoy this one. Kyle, what was your thoughts?
I never heard of them before, ever. And you think you would have done, since they supported such massive bands, and they're from Denmark, which is just across the water, and maybe another country. But they're there. But I mean, I think I'm in between you two. I didn't hate it, not by a long shot. I liked it quite a lot, but I didn't over love it either. I was like, the first listen, I was a bit like unsure as well. I liked a lot of the parts of it, like especially the opening and the track, The Uninvited. I was on board with those, and then they started mixing all these other things in, and it's like, one thing, it's good to mix all these styles together and make sure the transitions aren't clunky and that they do things smoothly and that everything's executed really well, which it is, and they're really good musicians. And the production by Fleming is fantastic. He has a really good talent at finding the exact right production for the band he's working with. I don't know how he does it, but it's never over-polished and it's never under-polished, and it's always exactly what that band needs for that particular album at that time. And I love his production style. So I think it was a great choice of them to go with him. But yeah, it's the album, I don't know. There's a band, I don't know if you've heard of them, called Major Tom, and they do the style switching kind of thing, and these reminded me of them quite a lot. A friend of mine introduced me to them a couple of years ago, and they're really, really, really good at what they do. They can make a fucking heavy song out of the dude's voice and a piano, and it sounds heavy as fuck. These guys reminded me, but they didn't quite capture that kind of thing that I've heard before. So it felt a little bit sort of weak, like you're just mixing in elements just for the sake of it, almost a little bit superficially. That's how it felt sometimes. But then they did it so well, so I kind of let them pass, and I was like, yeah, maybe that's just who you are, that's fine. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but no, I do. I'd heard it before, and I'd heard it done so well that I think it wasn't disappointing that they did it, but it was just sort of like, I've heard it been done so well, and they just didn't quite reach that level of, mixing the genres together. It felt like more they were playing, now as a heavy metal riff, now as a pop riff, now as a blah 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 blah, where I've heard things done where they really blend everything in super well, like you can make a heavy song out of a piano and a voice, and it works. It's a really heavy riff, but it's just played on a piano super angrily, and it's not just that, it's got some other stuff too, and so I think holding it up to that kind of stuff, it kind of paled a little bit. And then there was the whole thing about, the production was perfect, but the whole thing was the M Shadow's voice in Avenged Sevenfold. It was like, it's not M Shadow's. I thought, is that? Is it?
I had to Google it. It's the first time I've checked out did some reading into a band before a review, because I was convinced this was a side project or something.
We need a sound effect now, like, he read the sheet.
Didn't read the sheet, googled it just to make sure that you didn't do guest vocals further. Or something, because it was the second track, and I was like, this is a long guest appearance. It's like staying on for 2 fucking tracks. What? It's uncanny.
It is. It sounds a lot like him. I don't know if he's an influence or if they just naturally sound similar. But whatever, it's fine. It doesn't bother me really. But the one thing that bothered me is there are too many shreddy guitar solos on this. I picked that up really quickly after on the second listen through. I was like, hang on, I've heard this fucking thing 15 times and we're on track 3, you know. Like there was, I mean, it wasn't really solos, just like little bits in there. It's like, we get it, bro, you riff, you know. And
do you even riff, bro?
I know. Yeah, he's got that T-shirt and he laughs at himself in the mirror when he sees himself. And it's not to say that they're bad solos. They're actually quite tasteful, and a lot of them, well, some of them aren't so tasteful. There's a lot of like shredding and stuff, and it's like, okay, but it doesn't always fit, and I think it was too much, and for that it just sort of ruined it a little bit for me. Once I'd noticed it, I couldn't unhear it, and I was like, oh, you know. So, but no, standout track is definitely Tempest. That one absolutely, as the kids say, is on fleek. Also, All For You, there's like that's one of the heaviest riffs I've heard in a long time from a band that's not like strictly metal. They're more progressive and mixing styles, and that one was a great riff in All For You. That was really good. But the standout song for me is definitely Tempest, and it's towards the end of the album, and to be honest, like towards the end I was like, it's enough. This could have ended 2 songs ago. If you cut out like Bed of Nails and Condemned and just left it at 8 songs, I think it would have been a much better listen. But I didn't hate it, not by a long shot. I quite liked it, but I think just because I've experienced other bands that have mixed styles so much more expertly, it just didn't hit all the way.
Okay. Nice one. Rating wise, I think for me, I'd probably go with a 4 for me. I think once it clicked, I really enjoyed it. I think due to how kind of varied it is, it'll have a kind of very wide appeal in the kind of metal and rock kind of community, and I hope that those that don't instantly gel with it give it a second spin. I'm glad I did, because I've actually kind of grown to really like it, so I'm going to go 4 out of 5. Duncan, where are you sitting?
Same as the previous one, 3.5.
Nice. And Kyle?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Duncan on this one. 3.5.
3.5. Nice one. Cool. Let us know what you think when you hear the album. Happy to hear your thoughts. If you want to check out the band, you'll find them at facebook.com/Defecto Band.